Welcome back. I'm Betsy Bosley, the dietitian with the Pathway to Health and Wellness program. Today we're going to be talking about fats. Not all fats are created equal. Some fats, like animal fats, things like butter and cheese and high-fat dairy like ice cream, tend to be very high in saturated fat. And those are the types of fats that clog our arteries and cause things like heart disease. On the other hand, there are some fats that are good for us, things like canola and olive oil, nuts and nut butters, avocados, and seeds like chia and flax seeds. So I'd like to talk about these fats as we make our recipes today. We're making black bean burgers with avocado topping, and then we're making healthy baked apples with walnuts on top of them. To contrast with these foods, I wanted to start out with talking about some fast foods that are similar, a regular hamburger or cheeseburger, and some apple pies from fast food chains. The McDonald's cheeseburger runs around 300 calories and has 6 grams of saturated fat with 680 milligrams of sodium. The Burger King cheeseburger is about 270 calories and 5 grams of saturated fat with 560 milligrams of sodium. If you have a McDonald's apple pie, it runs around 230 calories and it has 5 grams of saturated fat. The Burger King apple pie is about 340 calories and 6 grams of saturated fat. So again, if you had a cheeseburger and a pie at either of these places together in the same meal, that would be 2/3 of your fat that you would want for the day. And definitely, if you're eating these foods more frequently, that can really contribute to heart disease. So now we're going to make a healthy twist on both of these recipes. We'll start with our black bean burgers with avocado spread. So here we have all of our ingredients to make our black bean burgers. The first thing that I've done is I've gotten my can of no salt added black beans and I've drained and strained the moisture off of it. And we're going to try to press out even a little bit more moisture. So we'll turn it onto a paper towel. This part's definitely going to get a little bit messy, but that's part of the fun. And I'm going to use a potato masher to kind of mash up the beans. It's a little bit of a workout. You really have to kind of press hard, but that just makes when you actually have your burgers that much more enjoyable. It's kind of like when I was a kid, we used to make homemade ice cream and, we had to hand crank it and it got really hard at the end, but it made the ice cream that much tastier. And so then over here we have half of a bell pepper. You can do whatever color you want. I'm just going to turn it onto this little paper towel to kind of press any water out of this as well. And then we're going to add it to our black bean mixture. And then the next thing is a half of an onion. I like to use red onions just because I think they're a really pretty color. Okay, so again, we are going to press out any excess water. All right. And then we're going to put it in our bowl. Okay. And then we have 3 cloves of garlic. And again, just kind of try to press any water out. This one might not be quite as watery as the other two. Looks like I have a black nail polish on right now. Okay. Just press that water out. And then we're going to add some of our spices. Let me just wipe off my hands. Okay, so in here we are going to add 1 tablespoon of cumin. One tablespoon of chili powder. All right. And then we're going to stir it all up in our bowl. You can kind of mash a little bit as you stir. Maybe get the beans a little bit better. You just want to really distribute the spice evenly because we don't want to get spicy pockets in one burger and no flavor in another one. And then if you want to add a little bit more spice, you can take kind of a chili sauce. So I'm just using this Asian chili sauce. And we're just going to add about a teaspoon. I'll just kind of estimate. Just a little squiggle. And then something else that really holds our burgers together are going to be 1 egg. So I'll get that in a second. So we're going to add our egg. And I'll kind of try to just mix up the yolk right here. Mix the yolk with the white. So that way it kind of gets a little more evenly distributed. And this definitely adds a lot of structure to these burgers. Kind of is like the glue that holds everything together. Okay, and so then we're going to add our last ingredient, which is our panko breadcrumbs. I like to use panko instead of regular breadcrumbs because they don't have any salt. And so we're going to do a 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs. And again, you know, kind of in any product like this, whether it's a hamburger or a meatloaf, if you have a lot of things going on in it, you need some kind of starch to bind everything together. So in this recipe, it's breadcrumbs. That is looking really good and ready to make into little burger patties. And I preheated my oven at 375, so it's all ready to go. And you can bake all of these on a cookie sheet. So over here, I have my cookie sheet lined with parchment paper. And so I'm just going to make little burger patties. So just kind of grab about 1/4 of this. So you press it into a ball. And then you're going to flatten it out with your hands like that. And here you have a nice little burger patty. Sometimes the peppers like to pop off, but we won't let that happen. So we're going to put it on our pan with the parchment paper. That's our first burger. All right, so now I have my 4 black bean patties, and I'm going to take them to the oven where they'll bake for 10 minutes. All right, so now that our burgers are baking in our oven, we're going to make our avocado sauce. Actually, it's not much of a sauce, it's just a mash. And this is kind of a good substitute for cheese on any type of burger because it's going to have those heart-healthy fats instead of the saturated fat that would be found in cheese. So to start, we're going to cut our avocado in half. And it's got this lovely green color. And we'll just scoop out the pit like that. And actually the pit has compounds in it that make the avocado stay fresh. So it's, you know, sometimes it's good to add it to guacamole to just kind of give it a little more shelf life. Another thing I've learned about avocado is it freezes really well. So you can actually freeze it with just a little lemon or lime juice. And it stays as green as when you first put it in there. Because a lot of times, you know, if you live by yourself or, you know, it just takes you a while to go through avocado, you know, it gets brown. And it's not bad to eat then, but it's definitely, you know, not as pretty as when it's bright green like this. I'm going to wipe my hands off a bit. And so they're very avocado-y. Which is actually a very good moisturizer. People do avocado masks for their skin. And the next thing I'm going to do is going to add my lime juice. And lemon or lime is a great addition to avocado. Not only does it add really nice flavor, but it also helps preserve it from not browning quite as quickly. So, and a good rule of thumb is you want to do about a tablespoon of lemon or lime juice for every avocado. All right. And now we have a really delicious topping for our burgers. And I think they'll be about ready now. So let's go check on them. So I just pulled my black bean burgers out of the oven. And I'm going to take off my gloves. And right here I've got some whole wheat buns. So I'm just going to grab one of these. We'll put it on our plate and you can have some vegetables, what other kind of toppings you would like. And we'll open up our bun. This one's being a little difficult. Then we can put on our black bean burger and see how it's pretty solid. It might break apart a bit, but that's okay. And then we'll top it with some of our avocado topping. Okay, that looks really delicious. I cannot wait to eat this. So I'm just going to sit down and enjoy this, and then we'll make our baked apple. So now that I've enjoyed my burger, I'm ready to make our baked apples for dessert. And so the first thing you're going to do is wash them, which I've already done. And then I like to use an apple core. And we just want to kind of burrow in here. And Granny Smiths tend to be very firm, which is great for baking. You just have to be really careful to not have your hand anywhere near the end of the apple core. And we'll just pull it out. Then we'll do the other apple. And you want to try to angle it so it will really get all of the seeds if you can. You might still have a few seeds, but that's okay. So we'll pull this baby out. And then we are going to cut them in half. And yeah, as you see, we do have a little bit of seedage. So we'll just be really careful and cut around that. And then it's time to make our filling. So we have a little bit of butter. A little bit of butter goes a long way in baking dishes like this because it is a saturated fat. We're only going to use 2 teaspoons of butter. So there are 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon. So we're only going to use about this much. And we'll just kind of estimate. And I've softened my butter so it's really easy to cut. And that's a good way to do this because we're going to mix it up with the other things. And if it was really hard from the fridge, it wouldn't be very easy to mix. So over here we have some really good spices. We have nutmeg and cinnamon, and those are really great additions to any kind of apple dish. That's what you add to apple pie to make them so good. So we're going to grab 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I always add a little bit more with cinnamon and nutmeg because I just love them. And then 1 teaspoon of nutmeg. All right, that's about a teaspoon. And then after this, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of chopped walnuts. And walnuts are really full of those heart-healthy fats that we've been talking about for this lecture. Okay. That's optional. You know, you can put other types of nuts. You could put pecans or almonds or something in this too, and it would be just as delicious. So whatever you have around. And then lastly, we're going to, this is a little confusing. This is my peanut butter jar, and I store brown sugar in old peanut butter jars to kind of keep them moist and fresh. And it works really well because they have like a really tight lid. So we're going to measure out 1 tablespoon of brown sugar and then 2 tablespoons. Okay. And then we'll just kind of blend everything together. I like to kind of get everything blended. The spoon you might also need to kind of press down if there's any lumps in your brown sugar. Luckily my brown sugar is pretty soft because I think the peanut butter container does a really good job of keeping it fresh. All right. So I think this is pretty well blended. So now I'm going to put it on top of my apples and kind of try to fill in the little hole as much as you can. This one has a little canal. Oops. I think I'm being stingy with some of them. This one got a lot. So we'll put that one, give that one a little more. Okay. And look all pretty. This is kind of a really quick dessert you can make when you have people over because it looks really nice, but it's really easy. So yeah, no need to heat up the oven for these. We're just going to put them in the microwave for 3.5 to 4 minutes, depending on your microwave. And you'll also want to cover these because the butter in them tends to splatter in the microwave. So let's go do that. All right, so I just pulled my apples out of the microwave and I tested them with my fork to make sure they were a little bit soft. So they're soft and ready to eat. And yeah, we can definitely enjoy these for dessert tonight. They're going to be so much less fat than an apple pie, and I think just as delicious. So I hope the next time you're thinking about going to a fast food place to get a cheeseburger and an apple pie, you think about making these recipes and actually do it because they're going to be very easy to make and much more nutritious. At first, they might taste a little bit different than the cheeseburger and apple pie would because they're going to have a lot less fat as far as the saturated fat. But they're going to be much more healthy and your palate does adjust. So eventually you're going to start to crave these healthier choices. And you can find these recipes and all of the other recipes from our sessions at the website for the Pathway to Health and Wellness. Thank you so much for watching.